Playing sports is an investment, whether it's your time, energy, or money. This is financing your athletic dreams. Welcome to another episode of Financing Your Athletic Dreams. I'm Martin Soaries. I hope you've had a chance to check out the first couple of episodes of the podcast. And I hope you've had a chance to subscribe to the dfree podcast network wherever you're listening to your podcasts. This episode is going to be interesting and really fun because we get to go into another dimension of what it means to finance your athletic dreams. And this is a different kind of conversation. And there are so many different ways to talk about money in athletics nowadays, and those are the kind of things that we're going to talk about on this show. Last episode we talked about what it looks like to secure a personal trainer, and for young athletes coming up today, that's an investment that's becoming not just more common but more necessary in order for them to develop and play at the highest level, because what it takes to do that is becoming more and more challenging, and it just takes more of an investment to really develop and give yourself that kind of edge. So we talked about what that kind of investment looks like on the last episode, and this episode we're talking about really one of the biggest conversations just in terms of finance and money and sports. And that's the NIL conversation in college athletics. So if you've been listening to the podcast, you know I'm a basketball guy. So we just came off of March Madness in the NCAA tournament. If you pay attention to college sports and college basketball in particular, then you've heard a lot about NIL, which is name, image, and likeness, over the past year or so, because on July 1st of last year, it was ruled by the Supreme Court that student athletes could start to profit and benefit from their name, image, and likeness. So this is the first season in history where college basketball players were able to sell t-shirts, take on partnerships, endorsements, sponsorships from local brands and companies, and I'll talk about some examples here in a few minutes. And so this was the first March Madness, the first NCAA tournament where the athletes were able to make some money and profit off of all of the attention that they get during the tournament. And March Madness, as we know, the NCAA is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and March Madness is their main source of revenue. Last year, their television deals with CBS and Turner Sports brought them in $850 million. And I saw this year they're expecting $870 million. And that's just on the men's side. That's just from the men's tournament, their TV deals with CBS and Turner Sports. So we know there's plenty of money in the NCAA, and that's why plenty of people over the years have been fighting for these NIL opportunities to become available to student athletes. So I just want to talk about some examples of what kind of NIL opportunities have been out there this season in the first season of NIL. And that's a really cool part of it too, because a lot of these athletes become pioneers for this kind of stuff now. You have Chucky Hepburn. He's a guard at Wisconsin. He hit the 3-pointer on March 1st that sent Wisconsin to the NCAA tournament. And after he hit that shot, a clothing company called the Players Trunk reached out to him, and he signed a deal with them to launch a special clothing line called Chucky Special. So they had like t-shirts and crew necks on their website I think they were red. They were like red shirts, for Wisconsin. Their colors are red, and it was a Chucky Special line. So they had shirts with Chucky Special on it after he hit this big shot that sent Wisconsin to the NCAA tournament. The attention of March Madness. I mean, again, over $800 million in television rights that the NCAA makes off of the NCAA tournament. The amount of people watching, over 15 million people watching these games, the kind of attention that you get. Look at, so if you were watching the tournament, even if you're not watching the tournament, that's how big this thing gets. Even if you're not really paying attention to the NCAA tournament, when something big happens, like a big upset or a Cinderella, you hear about it. We had one this year with St. Peter's, a 15 seed out of Jersey City, right here in Jersey. I'm from New Jersey. I live here. St. Peter's was the first 15 seed to go as far as they did to reach the Sweet 16. And those kids became famous. I happen to know one of them, Daryl Banks, one of the guards with the big hair. My man Daryl, he's worked out with me a few times. I know him through one of my good friends who's another basketball trainer here in Jersey. And he and his teammates became legends, not just local legends. They have that. I mean, in Jersey, they will be remembered forever, but national legends now. So I saw the kid, Doug Eddert, the kid with the mustache on St. Peter's, who played really well in the tournament. He got a deal with Buffalo Wild Wings. He posted something at some point during the tournament, during their run. He posted a paid partnership ad on Instagram with Buffalo Wild Wings, a bunch of chicken wings sitting around on the table and stuff. My boy Daryl, he posted something with Dove Men Care, some kind of ad, some kind of partnership with Dove Men Care, and I saw that they were actually one of the sponsors of the tournament. These are the kind of opportunities that are out there and that have been happening. So there are obviously levels to these NIL deals and the amount of money that these athletes are making. There's obviously levels to it. Paige Beckers, who is the first women's college basketball player in history to hit 1 million followers on Instagram, just happened in the last couple weeks. Paige Beckers so now they have, platforms that track NIL valuations, which just means how much, what your NIL value is. And there are platforms like this platform called Open Doors, which provides this kind of information I'm about to share, that gives you a sense of how much some of these college players could make per social media post based on their NIL valuation, which it to me that it's like some kind of algorithm process that determines, it's based on your performance and your which translates to your popularity and how much of a social media following you have. And usually nowadays they coincide. So usually the top players in college or anywhere else at the very least have an Instagram page. And nowadays it's Instagram and TikTok, and maybe a Twitter. So Paige Beckers, the most popular women's college basketball player right now, one of the top, women's college basketball players right now at UConn. She's a sophomore. Her NIL valuation. This is from Open Doors. I saw this on social media. Her NIL valuation and her highest earning potential per social media post is over $60,000. Paige Beckers sometime at the beginning of the season, I want to say she signed a deal with Gatorade. So obviously she's at the top of the top when it comes to NIL deals. Ziya Cook on South Carolina, the guard on the national champion South Carolina. Ziya Cook, she has deals that almost make her six figures, according to her dad. This is according to Bloomberg Business Week. Ziya Cook has deals with Bojangles, who I've seen. Bojangles has deals with a good amount of athletes. Bojangles is out there. Ziya Cook has a deal with Fenty Beauty, which is Rihanna, her cosmetics label. She has Dick's Sporting Goods and DoorDash and H&R Block. Like, Ziya Cook is out here working. She's out here working. But so people like Ziya Cook and Paige Beckers, they're at the top of the food chain, obviously, when it comes to these deals. They're making clearly they're making a good amount of money. I mean, again, Ziya Cook's dad in this article in Bloomberg Business Week said that she's close to making six figures with her deals. You have significant opportunities happening right away. I saw another stat from Open Doors that by July 1st of this year, the 1 year anniversary of NIL being activated, brands are expected to have spent up to $600 million on NIL deals. That's a stat from Open Doors. 600 million. Now that's a big number. That doesn't mean, of course, that all of these college kids are out here, getting rich. Not at all. Because there are levels to it, like some of these kids I know are just getting, they get a couple $100 for posting something on Instagram, a product or something related to the brand or the company. Maybe it's a couple $100, a few $100. For some people, it's just free stuff. Like the relationship just turns into free stuff, and there are still requirements and things that you have to do. But it's not like a paid opportunity, because remember, there are NIL opportunities for Division 1, Division 2, and Division 3 athletes. So this isn't just a thing for the players at UConn and North Carolina and Louisville. The players at all throughout the NCAA are eligible for NIL opportunities. So one example is Amaya Tucker, who's a Division II guard. She was a redshirt sophomore this past year at Winston-Salem State. She signed a deal with the minor league baseball team, the Winston-Salem Dash, and she just signed a deal with them to promote their team on her social media. And apparently she grew up in Winston-Salem, so that was a local opportunity that made sense for her, where she's able to basically get paid to help promote this the local minor league baseball team on her social media. So that's the interesting thing about NIL. And that's kind of what this conversation really boils down to, is like the whole thing about building your brand, which I feel like plenty of parents and mentors and people are saying to these young athletes coming up now, because we're in the era of having a brand, and there are so many brands and so many opportunities out there for what we call influencers. And that's what's happening, is that student athletes are being recognized as micro influencers. Some of them not so micro, but they're being treated as influencers, which I'm not going to kind of argue either way, even though I was a college athlete. I played 4 years of college basketball, so I I can appreciate the opportunities for college athletes to be able to make money and do things like this. But it's it's just an interesting time that we're in. But it's definitely warranted, because college athletes, especially when it comes down, when it gets to March Madness, that's obviously when college basketball gets the most attention. But there are college basketball games on television throughout the season. There are local companies and brands and places that want to be involved with, that want to have relationships with these college athletes, and that can help them just develop those relationships in the community. So it's just a really interesting opportunity. Again, when it comes to building your brand, like, that's just becoming something that is being stressed more, I think, to kids at a younger age. And they're just being exposed to just the lifestyle of having brands around and having a social media account where you kind of show your personality and show your creativity. So it's interesting, because I feel like athletes are of course, once you start to become like a serious athlete, like, which kind of happens in high school at this point, because look, you've got NIL going into high school too. Mikey Williams, if you know that name, 17 years old, he's already signed a multi-year sneaker deal with Puma. But when you decide to really like pursue a serious athletic career nowadays, you really are forced to create social media. Like, you kind of have to be on social media at whatever capacity. It is up to, like, the athlete or and the people around them, because some people just have people around them that run their social media. Of course, when they get to a certain level, not even, I mean, now kids nowadays have parents that run their social media accounts because they're either too young, or they're just not active on there. They're not gonna do the things on there that they could be doing to kind of promote themselves. I think, like, kids are kind of weird about that, I'm sure. Like, as a teenager, you're not really thinking in that way. Like, oh, I'm gonna, hype myself up on social and tweet my stuff and post about my stuff. Like, you're not really thinking strategically that way. But it does become necessary to have that social profile nowadays. That becomes important for the NIL conversation. And again, this is the first season of NIL. So now that it exists, it's going to be stressed even more going forward to young athletes coming up, because this is another opportunity to make money. It used to just be like, go to the NBA, in terms of kids wanting to have a career, a pro career. That's the other thing, is that these kind of opportunities with NIL, there's different sides to it. There are pros and cons. There are things they're still trying to figure out and work out. There are gray areas. But the part that I just feel like you have to see the opportunity in, of course, kids get a chance to make money. And trust me, as a former college athlete, I can attest to the glory of that, and just the blessing of that, because listen, it's a struggle as a student, especially as an athlete. There's just, I mean, listen, anyone getting a chance to make money is a good thing, but especially, these athletes that are putting in a lot of time and work, across all levels, not even just the ones that get to be on TV and stuff. And so of course that's a good thing that they get to, make money. But it's the bigger picture kind of takeaway and opportunity is that they get to learn. I mean, it's experience that they're not even going to get in school. I mean, some schools, of course, offer traveling abroad and internships and things like that, and relationships, of course. Like the best schools provide those kind of opportunities naturally. But what NIL does is, again, it gives these athletes a chance to be their own entity, their own brand, and see what it's like to have to communicate and negotiate and deliberate, right? And make decisions and meet deadlines. Like, all those things are accompanied with doing an NIL deal. Like, you have to check out certain things with your school, possibly with your state, because there are different state regulations apparently with NIL. That's one of the things that they're still trying to like figure out. So you still have to like navigate things. You don't just get checks and just post on Instagram and call it a day. So there are communication things, relational things, that come with these opportunities. And I do wonder. I mean, one of the concerns out there, of course, is just making sure that there's not too much of an emphasis on, the making this money and these NIL deals for these students, because being a student athlete is a lot on its own. Just school and athletics alone is enough. And so, you got shuffling all these deals, all these different marketing deals and sponsorship stuff and all of that. Of course, you don't want that to interfere with the school or the athletics, of course. And the backdrop is that, you're not going to have all those deals if you're not performing anyway. Right. And if you're not keeping up in the classroom, you can't, you won't even have the chance to perform. Right. And if you're not performing well, then you're not going to have the chance to get those deals. But listen, I'll say this before I wrap up. This is the thing about being an athlete. I think this is like the ultimate luxury of being an athlete. The ultimate example. So you have this kid on Michigan, plays for Michigan, Adrian Nunez. He plays for Michigan. He barely plays 5 minutes a game, and Michigan had made it to the Sweet 16 of the tournament this year, and they were an upset. I believe they beat Tennessee, if I'm not mistaken. And Adrian Nunez, who barely plays 5 minutes a game at Michigan, he has deals with Amazon, NIL deals. He has NIL deals with Amazon, Coach, and Spotify. Now, Adrian has over 3 million followers on TikTok. I looked at his account recently and I saw that he does videos with his girlfriend now. I saw they do stuff together, but I don't know what kind of content he did on TikTok that grew him to 3 million followers. But obviously it's nothing too heavily basketball related. Like, he must be doing, I mean, if you know TikTok, that's for like personality stuff and fun, silly stuff and whatnot. Maybe he's doing some basketball stuff. I don't know, but he's got 3 million followers. So he's doing a lot of something that's catching people's attention. So that's really part of what's so interesting about this is that you can be one of these micro influencers or just influencers. I don't know why I say micro. Someone who has 3 million followers, there's nothing micro about that, but you're micro in the sense that you're not Paolo Banchero at Duke. You're not the star player at Gonzaga or one of these Power 5 schools or something. You're at a Big Ten school. Michigan is Big Ten, but you're not a starter. You're not one of the main players, right? But you can still get a deal. You can still get an NIL deal if and that's the side of it where you would have to be that into social media already. You would have to be like a content creator, someone who already enjoys creating and consistently creates on social media, and that would have had to have built up probably since high school. Like he's probably been running that TikTok probably before he got to Michigan, I would assume. So we'll have to see going forward what NIL does, and I mean, in its first season, we're seeing what it can do. Being an influencer, of course, is a huge part of the opportunity of being an athlete nowadays. This conversation is really about the career. The athletic dream is also the athletic career for an athlete. Now, the way things are going, if you're fortunate enough to play at the college level, to compete at the college level, then you can at least get a preview of what it looks like to develop your brand, make money off of your name, image, and likeness, see what it's like for it to be a career. The other thing is that there seem to be some very active and consistent and helpful resources that students are supposed to be able to use to find NIL opportunities. Some of them are Dreamfield, Influencer, which is spelled INFLCR in all caps, and it's supposed to represent influencer. You have a platform called 98 Strong and a platform called Open Doors. Now, these are like third-party platforms that players are able to and encouraged to use on their behalf to work with these platforms that can help them identify NIL opportunities. So these may be more helpful for those players who aren't as hot on social media and just have people coming to them and brands and companies coming to them and falling in their laps. Some athletes might have to be more proactive. So that comes with tapping in with some of these platforms, some of these resources that can help you. And apparently all universities are supposed to have an individual or a department. There are supposed to be people in place at every opportunity that can at least answer your NIL questions and that can help you to navigate if there are any discrepancies or conflicts. I don't know if these are people who are assigned to kind of help you find opportunities. I don't know if it's as much of that as it is them helping you with the regulations and like the formalities of it. So you have resources out there for these student athletes to find potential opportunities and to market themselves. But I don't think there's any question that social media has changed the whole landscape when it comes to marketing yourself, building up your brand, and creating the potential for brands and companies to find you and identify you as a candidate for their NIL deals. So thank you for listening to this episode of Financing Your Athletic Dreams on the dfree Podcast Network. Be sure to subscribe, and wherever you're listening, leave a comment, leave a review, Let me know your thoughts on this episode. We might talk about some more NIL stuff in the future on the show. I hope you enjoyed, and I will catch you on the next episode.